On the line, William Kedjanyi joins us now via phone, who represents Star Sports, so he's very much the public face of that sport. Thanks for joining us, William. I'd be interested in your take on this because, of course, you cover horse racing, but also other sports that people bet on. Something that Josh mentioned there, fan base. In terms of racing's fans and sports fans, what's your sense of where we are in terms of the ethnic mix, if you like, out there?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me on. Secondly, I'd very much agree with Josh's view. The fan base issue is, I think, very much similar to the participation issue in the sense that there just really aren't enough BAME people, I think, who are in the racing fan base. And I think the sport, like Josh said, has to go out and engage. Now, I agree with Marcus's point that there needs to be tangible actions with that. And I think one of the first ways to do that, albeit it's not an easy solution, would be to look at promoting black people within racing. In my experience, a lot of the sports that black people tend to follow most closely have black idols at the top of their game there. I don't think it's unfair to say that that's not the case in racing. I also believe that racing's promotion as a sport is really, really important here. Many racing fans will either come, in my experience, through one of two avenues, family or betting, and both are good. But I think if racing is promoting itself to the BAME community, it needs to be promoted as a sport in the same way that you would have football promoted as a sport, or rugby or cricket. And I think the sport is doing better on that point overall, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
That's really interesting. You mentioned, family background is often a route in, but betting is a great conduit and a great channel. And of course, it's many people's point of engagement. How can we use that to do what you're suggesting there, William, in terms of selling the sport better? Because you're in the betting industry. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I think in terms of betting, I think the betting population of racing is probably more diverse than the race-going population. I don't necessarily have figures to hand to that. That's sort of an anecdotal experience. I think, it'd be more likely that black people would have a bet, etc. The issue is, and this probably, I know it's not helpful to say, but it probably come across all races, is how do you turn casual punters into fans of the sport who would follow, say, the likes of Sean Murphy on Twitter? And I think the sport is more aware of that now. But bringing the conversation back to BAME representation, there are a couple of issues which I think are proving very tricky for racing. Number one is the class of the sport, in the sense that racing before the lockdown was very well attended sport. It is around the world. It can be quite expensive to follow if you're going and you're having that unique connection at the races. Some tracks do this better than others, but generally speaking, if you want to go to the Premier events, it's the best part of £100, and that's not helpful when you consider the sort of structural disconnect between many black people and being able to attend those sorts of events. I also think that routes through to racing are just far more accessible to white people than black people, and I think that's on a number of levels. The email you had earlier really did speak to me. There's been many studies done with regards to, discrimination structurally within companies. I think a good way to start would be mentoring schemes, sort of getting people within racing to take young people in the sport, young black people, either through yards, who do the work physically or who are interested in the sport and the media, to go up. I've seen a lot of journalists offer to do this. I think that'd be really helpful if people in racing offer to do it too.
Okay, a couple of really good suggestions there, which gives us some more food for thought. I'm going to leave it there for now. William, thank you ever so much for that contribution, though.